Alright, guys. Alright, guys, let's get this thing started. So as I said earlier, the first thing we do is we do the crisis phase. So I'm going to take the bag that has the cubes in them. I'm going to pull the cubes out, and I'm going to pull the cube out, and the cube is green. So the color that we're going to be, if a crisis happens, it's going to happen on the green planet. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one crisis card and one specialist card. Set this over here. Put them in here. That's the active deck. Then I'm going to take from the blue. Remember, these are the cards. Oh, goodness. These cards we got at the beginning of the game. I'm shuffling them up. I'm going to take a random card. I'm going to put it in the active stack. And I'm going to do the same for the other green player. And this is actually the green player is the one that's going to get the crisis if it happens. And then I'm going to look at mine. So I'm looking at mine. And here are my cards again. Move these out of the way. Oops. Goodness, I thought it would be easier to pick them up in this. There we go. So I've got, I can cause a crisis, or I can prevent a nuclear crisis, and then I have an advanced action card. I think what I'm gonna do, right now, I think I'm gonna contribute my crisis card. I know that is one galactic point, but you know, that's the way it is. I think that'll be worth it. Get a crisis out there. Hopefully later on I can solve. So one thing we got to remember in solo mode, I think I've already said this, but I'll say it again. Whenever somebody contributes a card, they get 3 energy per card contributed. In this case, myself and both AI players got contributed cards, so we'll all gain 3 energy. I'm not really going to. I'll probably show you like the first couple times around what I'm going to do with the player mats and moving stuff around. Really, there's not a lot to it. I mean, you're just literally keeping up with what you have, and when we do upgrades and stuff. So I'm not really going to show the mats quite yet. I'll show them just at different points in time when something significant happens. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to increase all the mats. So the Azarians currently are at 9 energy, so they're going to go to 12. So we put them at 12. I am currently at 10. I'm going to go to 13. And the Junin, who's the green, is currently at 8. He's going to go to 11. Alright, so those have been done. Alright, so here's the cards. I'm going to shuffle these up so I don't know whose card was what. Boom, 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 bang, bang, boom. And let's just make it interesting. 5 cards. Good grief, really? Alright, number 3. Third card is... Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. So, here's how this works. You're going to take all the specialist cards and the crisis cards. Now, there's 5 cards, and in that there are these 2 advanced cards. These cards don't do anything, right? So you just set them aside. Those are going to go into the discard pile for the crisis. So we're going to put those right over here. That leaves these 3 crisis cards. Okay. Now, you're going to say probably next, well, which one of these do I use? Well, this is where, if you look in the top right corner, you have a number, right? So we have 2, 28, and 8. So in this case, we're going to take number 28 because it is the highest number. Okay. So the other 2 are discarded and not used. So here's what happens. We have a chemical crisis on the green planet, because remember we picked the green cube out of the bag. We're then going to put the green cube back in the bag. We are again going to discard the crisis cards. We're going to take from the crisis token stack a chemical crisis token. That's one of those right there. I'm going to flip it. We're going to see that symbol, and what that symbol is going to say is, hey, we need to increase the Tau Ceti exchange level for that particular commodity. So we're going to do that right now. That's going to go from 1 to 2. This token is going to sit on the green homeworld right like that. Now, it is important to note that that crisis token, right now we're not really playing with any of the advanced rules because I just wanted you to see basically how the game works. But you know, if you do the advanced rules in multiplayer, and this will affect it in solo, but this is going to count negative for that homeworld galactic point. So whether it is the green player, the Junin, or whether it's the Azarian or myself that completes it, I mean, we're all trying to complete it, but if the Junin has that at the end of eight cycles, then that's going to be some negative points. So probably he's going to be trying to, you know, if you were a player, you would be trying to get that off your planet as quick as you could. Okay, so that is the crisis phase. Literally, that's all there is to it. Now, the next phase is the action phase. A couple things happen. First things that happens, we're going to populate the 6 homeworlds with commodities, and these commodities are going to change the exchange. Okay, so I'm going to pull 6 commodities out of the bag and place them on the homeworld randomly. I'm not looking at them as I do this. Okay, there's 3. 4. 2 more. Boink. Oh. And boink. Okay. So, now, again, in a single player, a single mode, the commodities work a little bit different for the AI. They don't get them. But in a multiplayer, when you're playing with 2 or more players, on the first turn, you will get 2 commodities of whatever is on your homeworld in demand. So because in this case, I have that commodity in demand on my homeworld, what's going to happen is on my player mat, I'm going to take that commodity. I have them sitting over here because I know that I'll be the only one using them, so I've already pulled one of everything out just to have it handy. I'm going to put that on the 2 spot at the very bottom. Right. So that tells me that I've got 2 of those. And again, like I said, in a multiplayer, everybody would get 2, and then you get 1 for every turn. So every cycle, second cycle, I'll only get 1 of whatever I see that's on my world. So that's the first part. Now, the second part of that is when we do that, we have to change the Tau Ceti exchange, because remember, these goods in demand are driving an economy. So I'm going to start, just kind of go around the board. So we have the green algae over here. So it goes from a 1 to a 2 on the exchange. We have the processors. Those go from a 1 to a 2 on the exchange. We have I believe that's octo nanofluid. That's not octo nanofluid. What is that? I'm going to try to call these by their correct name. So, the green is the Junari algae. The silver is the nanoprocessors. This symbol here is quark gluon plasma. And you can use, let's go back here. So the algae, its special use, when you're doing exploration, and when you're a player, not the AI. The AI in solo does exploration slightly differently. But as a player, you can spend one of these, and instead of having to spend 2 exploration actions, you can actually just spend 1 exploration action and explore both routes, right? Both pieces of the route. So instead of having to use one to explore this and then use another one to explore that, I can use 1 single action, explore this, spend one of these if I have it, and then explore this and not use my second action. So you're saving some actions that way. Quark gluon plasma, you can use that to reduce upgrade costs for some of the systems. Alright, then the gold one is gold. Again, it's used for upgrade costs, so that's going to go from a 1 to a 2. Telepathic generators. We can spin telepathic generators. That's these blue ones here. We can spin telepathic generators to draw an additional specialist when we recruit. So instead of drawing 1 crisis and 1 specialist, we can draw 1 crisis and 2 specialists if we want to spend one of those commodities. So that is also going to go from a 1 to a 2. And then we have octo. Did we get one of everything pretty much? Oh gosh, I think we did. Octo nanofluid, which is this one. And that is logistics. That also stands for just upgrading. So that is going to go up from 2 to 3, because remember, on the back of this crisis token was that same symbol. So now we effectively have 2 of those. So that went from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3. Everything else except for, well, everything else is at 2. Okay? So that's that part. Now, under normal circumstances in a multiplayer game, each player would spin an action, and then it would go to the next player who'd spin an action, and you keep going around until everybody has spent all their actions, and then that would end the cycle. In the solo mode, what's going to happen is I'm going to spend all 4 of my actions to do whatever I want, and then based on what I do, that's going to determine the AI and what they're going to do. Okay, so I'm going to look at my cards again right quick. Just a reminder what my cards are. I can prevent a nuclear crisis, or I have an advanced card that I can play to immediately resolve a nuclear or geophysical crisis without a knowledge token. Or I can just play it and have +1 on each of the dice if I do a military check. However, I kind of got the military already covered, because if we look at my card for my leader, Captain Estella, then we'll see that I can reroll any military or logistics skill check for 0. So something I have not mentioned. Anytime that you do a roll, you can opt to pay 2 Tau and reroll what you just rolled. If you failed, you have to take the reroll though. You cannot, you cannot keep paying 2 tau to re-roll and re-roll and re-roll till you get what you want. Once you re-roll, you lose the tau, 2 tau, and you re-roll, but you got to keep it. So if you fail and then fail again, then you failed and you're out 2 tau. So if you don't have a lot of cash, that may be risky, may be worth it depending on what you're doing. But that is an option. So just know that is available. But in this case, it actually does not cost me anything to re-roll military air logistics. So that's nice. What to do first? I think first, because I have 2 on my cargo, I think I'm actually going to draw an interplanetary mission and show you how those work. So I'm going to take one of my markers, which is one of these dudes right here. I'm going to place that on the interplanetary mission space on my player mat. Alright, and let's go over to that space on the player mat right quick so you can see what that looks like. Alright, so here on the mat, you can see, remember earlier I increased my energy because I contributed the card. Now my energy is 13. Remember the plus marker says I've got 10 plus whatever's on the track, so that's 13. You can see here's my commodity for when I started the cycle, the first cycle. I got 2 of those. That's sitting right there. I have 12 tau, 10 plus 2. And I put my marker right here on IM. Now, just underneath that, it says -1 and it's got the energy symbol. So what that means is in order for me to take that action, I have to reduce my energy by 1. So I'm going to go from 13 to 12. I'm going to mark that with one of my 4 markers. So now I've got 3 markers left to use. And I subtract the energy and then I get to take the action. Okay, and I have to be able to pay for the action to take the action. So when I do that, what's going to happen is I'm going to draw an interplanetary mission card, and we're going to see what that is. Alright, interplanetary mission. Dr. Virupsov, a famous biochemist, is needed on Numar to work a top secret project. Okay. So let's go back to the map and see exactly where all these places are. Alright, so we're back here at the map. Now, when we're looking at this particular type of interplanetary mission, if you look, you'll notice that it shows transport. So it tells me that we're going to be moving goods from one location to another. When you're doing a transport interplanetary mission, your propulsion, which is how far you can move, does not matter. You're just going to start at the planet it tells you to start at. In this case, it says pick up at Juno and transport to Numar. This is Juno right here in the green, and Numar is, where's Numar? Numar's up here. Okay, so that is 2 tiles away, 2 hexes away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my command ship Gonna drop it right there. Payment is your cargo capacity, which my cargo capacity is 2, times the number of hexes. I moved 2 hexes, so that is a total of 4. So I'm going to increase my tau by 4 from 12 to 16. Okay, so that's my first action. Second action, I will, I believe, move. Okay, that's going to cost me 1 energy. I'm going to go from 12 to 11. And I'm going to move, my propulsion is 2. I'm just going to move over here. Alright, way up there at the top. Let me adjust this just a little bit, make it a little bit easier for you guys to see. There we go. So I'm way up here at the top. That's 2 actions. I have 2 more actions left. And I think I'm going to, let's explore. Alright, so I'm going to take the exploration action. That cost me 2 energy. I go from 11 to 9. Alright, so, you know, depending on some of these actions you take, like from my buy and sell is 3, so you can chew through some energy pretty quick if you take certain actions over and over. But that's exploration. Now I have to choose a knowledge token. Let's go with this one. Oh goodness. Wow. Okay, so these guys are no fun. This is a patrol. So the way this works is, if you remember, there's a 2 and a 4. So I'm looking at that 2. That means they have 1 weapon, and they have 1 hit point, but they get to go first. So they're going to roll 1 6-sided dice. So get rid of this. Take this transport. I forgot to do that, by the way. These transports, when they're completed, they go to the bottom of the transport interplanetary mission deck. If they're an interplanetary mission, I cannot imagine that you would go through that whole deck in a normal game. There'd be a lot of people just doing that same action over and over. So, yep, the pirates are going to attack me. My shields are 1, so it's really just a gamble. I'm going to use my shields to protect my shields. So let's roll it up and see what happens. I'm hoping that they roll either a 2, which the shields would block, or a 4 or a 5, because if they hit a system, you know, then well, you know what? Let me double check. I want to make sure I tell you this exactly right. Oh, okay, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of something else. So what's going to happen is they're going to roll to hit, okay? On a 5 or a 6, they hit. And then if they do hit, then we roll to see what system they damage. I'm hoping that if they do, I'm hoping they miss, obviously. But if they do hit, I'm hoping they roll a 4 or 5 for the location. Because the way this works is if they destroy a system, then the battle's over, I lose. So even though they may damage a system, and my cargo and propulsion both have 2, I would at least be able to have another shot at taking them out, potentially. So let's roll it up and see what happens. Alright, a 2. So that means that the Marauder missed. So now we're going to go back and forth, right? So now it's my turn. My weapons level currently is 1. So I'm going to roll 1 dice as well. Wow, I rolled a 2 as well, so I missed. Goes back to them. They rolled a 1 and missed. 5 or 6. That's what I want. 5 or 6. I rolled a 2. They go. Oh, alright. So they rolled a 6. That's a hit. So now I'm rolling to see which system they damage. And I rolled a 4. Excellent. 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 So, what does that mean? Well, what that means is, on my system, my propulsion is 4. Well, on everybody's system, propulsion is 4. So my propulsion is going to take 1 damage. So I'm going to put a red crystal on it to denote its damage. But because the system is not destroyed, I'm going to get another go. If I can roll a success, which is a 5 or a 6, on this roll, I will have defeated them. So I'm really, really hoping for that 5 or a 6. But first, let me grab. Here we go. Let me grab the crystals. I forgot to grab those earlier. My apologies. So, pulling the crystal out. I'm putting a crystal on the propulsion system, which I'll show you that here in just a minute when I get done with all my actions, so you can see what that looks like. And I get to roll. Remember, I'm wanting a 5 or a 6, 5 or a 6, 5. That is not a 5 or a 6. That was a 3. That was a miss. They get to go again. That's a 3 for them. They miss. I swear, guys, I'm rolling this. I keep rolling some of the same numbers. I'm really, really doing this. All right. So that was my hit on a 5. So they are defeated. So I'll pull this off. Now, the way this works, this is a knowledge token, but obviously you're not going to get to keep the knowledge token. If I defeat them, which I did, I'm going to get 1 galactic point. Okay, so I'm going to take this. They've got the tokens that say 1 galactic point. I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to set it over here by my mat, so I know that I completed that. Now I can also opt to, and I will, not that it really matters in solo, but I'm going to do it anyway, just so that you can see it. I'm going to place that flag there. What that says is, hey, nobody else can explore this. And I want to do that because I want potentially to successfully explore that knowledge token at a later point to be able to put a cube there. Putting a cube there means it comes out of the bag. It means less chance of something happening on my planet, and that's going to allow me to build an orbital. So I'm going to put that there. That was my third action. Now remember, I still have this out of the way. I still have this cryptologist card. I could potentially play that for the other effect, +1 per die on military skill check results. But like I said before, I may. You know what? I think I am. I'm going to go ahead and play that. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. I have not used it yet, but it is out there for me to potentially use. So the way these work is, again, I can put these out, play these. At the end of my turn, I'm going to have to pick them all up, and I cannot exceed my hand limit, which currently I only have 2 cards because I have that card and this nuclear specialist card, so I'm good on cards right now. So I think what I'm going to do with my 4th action is I'm going to go ahead and explore again and hopefully try to set myself up for an orbital. So let's flip this over. Alright, atmospheric. So what happens now is, since it's atmospheric, I'm going to go over here to this deck of cards. Now, there's a couple different ways to do that. These have all the backs. You can shuffle these up and then draw the first one you come to and put all, just go through and put them on the bottom. So, look at it, and then I put it on the bottom. Or you can have them in 6 different stacks. Just for space, I have them all shuffled together. So I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to find the first card that has that atmospheric, which matches the crisis. So there it is. Put all those on the bottom, and I'm going to draw that. And that is what I am going to resolve. So let's see what it says. You pick up unusual atmospheric data coming from Atolus, which may cause disruption in planetary trade. Use your military skill to suggest an alternate trade route, which will remain protected. So this is good for me, all right? So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to say, it's going to use a military check. I compare that to my card here of my leader, and I'm seeing on my card that logistics is a 4, but military is a 3. So that tells me that I can roll 3 dice. If I did not have military in either one of these 2 spots, here or here, then I would just roll 2 dice. Ideally, you would love to have it over here where I could roll 4, but 3 is definitely better than 2. So I'll put that back on my player mat. Leave that in there. So I'm going to roll 3 cards. I want a 5 or a 6. That's a success. As long as I have at least a 5 or a 6 on one of the dice, I'm going to get the knowledge token. If you look at the bottom, that symbol right there, that's a success in the blue at the very bottom here. So I'm going to get the knowledge token if I roll that, and then potentially I could either lose energy if I roll very, very low on the other ones, or I could potentially gain Tau if I roll very, very well on the other ones. And if I blow it, I can always spend 2 Tau to re-roll it to try to get it. So, alright, so in this case, well, wow, yeah, I definitely made it. That's 6, 12, 16. Now, remember, I actually just misspoke. Remember, my ability says I may re-roll any military checks or logistics skill checks for 0. In this case, I did not have to do that, but let's assume that I had rolled something like, let's see, I did that, and this, right? So if I'd have rolled that, it would have been a success. I would get to claim this token, right? Because I rolled a 5. However, I would have had a -3. So let's assume that I did not want to keep the -3. That I'm already at 9 energy. I don't want to get my energy get too low in case I need to do several high cost actions in a row for some reason, and I don't want to take the spin an action to refuel. Then maybe I would say I want to re-roll that. If I chose to re-roll that, I would have to re-roll all 3 of these dice. Okay, and if I did that and I rolled something like that, then I would not get that token. That token would go back on the board, back up here, available for somebody else. Okay, hopefully that makes sense, and I'm sure that will happen at some point later on in the playthrough. But as it stands, this card has been completed. Not only did I gain the knowledge token, but I also gained 4 Tau. I go from 16 Tau to 20 Tau. Now, on my track, on the Tau side, the plus 20 gives me 1 galactic point. So, right now, if the game ended, I would actually get a point for that. So, that's nice. Alright, so let's look back at the map here. So, I get this token, right? And because this route has been fully explored, I go into the bag where we have all the cubes. I pull out one of my cubes. Oh, I'm sorry, I grabbed the wrong bag. That's the commodity bag. Here we go. I pull out one of the cubes that's mine in here, and I place it on that exploration point. Now, What happens at the beginning of the next action phase, if it's still there, would be if I have a certain number of cubes, I would be able to take 10, 15, 20, 25, depending on how many I had, and I could take those points and I could either add them to Tau or energy. So you do, and that represents economic influence, actions, things of that nature. Very, very powerful mechanic, super, super helpful. If you have a series of bad luck and it's costing you money or energy, Tau or energy, because you can't roll real well, or you take several really expensive actions in a row, like for me, buying and selling is 3 energy. If I took, on one turn and did that all 4 times, that's 12 energy. That's a ton of energy. That's not going to be easy to get back unless I spend half my actions on a turn to refuel for 10. So having those cubes, once you build orbitals to generate that money, and those cubes will go back to your planet, to generate that money, greatly, greatly, greatly helps. And not only does it do that, but at the end of the game, if you have for each cube on your planet, you get 1 galactic point, and then of course your orbitals count depending on what the hex says. So that's cool. So, okay, now what happens next?